Hello, and my name's Mark, and you're back for another. So I've done previous reviews have been beers that have been brewed on the continent, places like Sweden, Netherlands, and I want to say Denmark, or is it Belgium? Belgium. But today we're going to be on the mainland, and we're going to be doing a beer from England, specifically from Suffolk, although it's closer to Norwich than it is to Ipswich. It's going to be a beer by St. Peter's Brewery. So, a little bit about this beer. It was initially released in 2016, one of the first craft beers to be released. As the name suggests, it's called St. Peter's Without, and it's gold, as the name suggests, and the zero there. It is 0% alcohol. It's been created, or rather, the alcohol's been stripped using a process called attenuated fermentation. That is, the fermentation is carefully controlled to limit alcohol production, and then the alcohol is removed using a proprietary technique. The beer is described as a lightly sweet malt base with subtle citrus notes. So there's no mention of actual fruit juices going into this. So we are going to make the assumption that it is hop based citrus notes. So potentially Citra could be the main hop of use there. So when I was looking for another alcohol-free beer to do a review of, I'd honestly never seen this one before on the shelves. So I was happy to see it because St. Peter's Brewery is one of those breweries that I actually really enjoy. Particularly the Plum Porter that they release is a really nice beer. One of the favourites of mine. And the bottle has a really nice shape as well. It's kind of quite slim in its side profile, but it's got a lovely feel to it. It's quite similar to the style of bottle that, if I change the background again, the Singleton, that which is what this distillery is, the Singleton do. You can probably see, is that on the table there? Single bottle? Probably not. But the Singleton, it's a Diageo-owned distillery, of which there are 3 in Scotland. They produce a bottle very much like this, a long, tall, slim, thin bottle. Probably a thinner profile on the overall shape of the bottle. So that's just an aside. So I say I'd never seen this beer before. When I've been reviewing alcohol-free beers on the shelves, I happened to see this one in, of all places, Morrison's. I don't know shop at Morrison's. It's just they seem to have a really good range of alcohol-free beers, and this seems to be more consistently available beers on their shelves than other supermarkets. So this one is actually the second one I've had. I will be having. The first one I picked up and I tried, and then my wife bought me this one. £1.50 it costs for a bottle from Morrison's. But what is it like for a diabetic? So I'm just going to crack it open and give it a pour. So as you can see coming through there, it's quite light pale in colour, like a light lager. It's got a bit of a head going on there, some active gas coming away there. This particular glass activates the gas, the carbon dioxide. So a bit about this particular beer. It's got 6 grams of carbohydrates per 100 ml. It is a 500 ml bottle, so it's 30 grams for the whole bottle for carbs. It's got 3.2 grams of sugar per 100 ml. That's 16 grams per bottle, and it's 25 calories per 100 ml of calories. So that's 125 per bottle. So as you can see by the graph up here, it pretty much compares to the Brooklyn for diabetic nature of the sugars and the carbohydrates. So it's not particularly terrible. It's on par with that. However, the bottle is slightly bigger than the cans I've been reviewing previously, so you've kind of got to pay attention to that. However, it is acceptable for a type 2 diabetic with regards to the sugar content. As ever, you need to know your own blood sugar levels, and you know better than anybody else how you respond and what you can and can't have and when you can have them. So as ever, my advice is everything in moderation. But since it is truly an alcohol-free beer, at least you don't need to worry about that. But what does it taste like? Well, on the nose, it's kind of got a honey maltiness to it. Unlike the last beer, which was the Bud Zero, which was more of a burnt malt. This is a more of a honey malt. It is very much a sweet honey. And they do a honey. Is it a honey porter they do in the alcohol range? They do a honey beer, which is a nice beer, but I do prefer the plum. But this has got a lovely nose on it. It is a sweet nose through that honey, malty, tiny bit of that. I want to call it a Calabar nose, which takes it back to a bit of a burnt, hoppy, burnt hay type malt. But it's not as intense as it is on the bud. Yeah, it's an inviting nose. Cheers. So that honey is coming through there on the palate. There is some hints of that lager type burnt malt coming through as well. And I'm not a fan of lager, you probably know, but it is there, but it's not as intense. The honey is the more dominant flavour, I think, coming through. And I suspect that's coming from the maize, because they do use maize as part of the flavour profile, I think post alcohol removal. I think I read that they do that. In terms of alcohol, in terms of gas, sorry, carbon dioxide, it's not particularly gassy. It's not going to blow up me as much as a lager would. It's easy drinking. It's not particularly fruity. The citrus description they're giving to it, I'm not entirely sure where that's coming from, because I'm certainly not getting it. The overriding flavour profile I've said is the honey. That's what I'm getting most of. It is a nice beer, but it is a light ale style of beer. Would I buy it again? Yes. Yeah, I would, but not that often, I don't think. For me, and this will be no surprise based on the review so far, the Brooklyn that I've tried is my favourite so far. I do like IPAs. I like fruity beers, particularly well dry hopped beers. This certainly doesn't really give you that. This is probably more of a safe bet, certainly safer than the Bud. I think if you like lagers, you will prefer this. If you're not a fan of fruity IPAs, then again you'd like this one. So if the Brooklyn's a bit too flavorful for you, this is probably the next one down. So I'd put this as second place in terms of flavor. Would I buy it? Yeah, I would. It is a buy, it is a win. And I would definitely buy this as a second option to the Brooklyn, as I say. If Brooklyn wasn't in hand and they had that, I'd go for this. Otherwise, I'm on a journey here to discover what's available out there and which one's the best. And in terms of being diabetic, this one sits fine. Again, it's not a session beer. You shouldn't really be having too many of these because they do still have sugar. As I say, it's 16 grams per bottle. That's equivalent to a quarter of a serving of which would be a meal. So as an accompaniment to a meal, it's probably fine. Or as like one bottle in between meals as kind of what would be a snack, a treat, potentially one of these, but no more than that. And that's it. So I hope this was being useful. It's a nice beer. Laters.